What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 31 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lillianwall. I got producer Noah here with me. Noah, say what's up to the people.
Midweek dub pod at that.
Midweek dub pod. We've got a dub pod for you all today. And it is a doozy of a dub pod. Only our second one of the season, but the Seattle Sounders went back to Philadelphia to make up the famously rained out match of 2024 that 6 minutes of was played several weeks ago and then chalked. And man, it really popped off. My adrenaline is still pumping. I can't wait to pod about this one. This is a good dub pod. I'm excited to lay it down for you guys. So yeah, Noah, I mean, we got a lot to get to on this one, but before we get into all that, let's take care of some housekeeping at the top of the show, and then we can have some fun. First of all, I want to once again really thank all of our new paid subscribers and the people that have subscribed in the last couple weeks. We really appreciate it. We're up to 8 now, so I want to thank. I'm going to just name them all: Daniel Pavetto, Mike Standish. Mike, I love you. I miss you on Twitter, but I understand why you quit. Ryan Shane, Eric Stanley, and then one of them is my sister, Annika Marinakis, and my nephews, CJ and Miles, who are named as the subscribers. So that's a family sub, but it still counts. And we've also got Andy Hill, Ian Mitchell, Greg Hokert. Thank you guys so much. We really, really, we love you guys. Like, it's so, no one has to be a paid sub, so we just really appreciate the gesture, and that show of support for the content keeps us motivated to keep churning these out. So once again, if you want to join all of our paid subs in that, you just go to podcast.lobbingscorchers.com. There's a little support button with a heart next to it, and you can pledge however much you want, $3, $5, $10, whatever, and totally not obligatory at all, but we really appreciate those who have already subscribed and those who may in the future. And then also just another quick plug for the new Lobbing Scorchers YouTube page. We've been uploading every show up on there and are trying to grow our presence there. And we have like 20 something subs now. We're slowly but surely working our way up on the old YouTube. It would be nice to see that number grow a little bit. So if you got a second, go ahead and drop a sub on the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube and watch fire up the content on there, get our views churning on there, and like and sub and all that on there, and that would be much appreciated.
Maybe we'll be give you a little face cam at some point here, so you can see how we record this podcast in camo shorts and hoodies. Yeah, exactly. I mean, now that we have the YouTube set up, we haven't really talked about it much, but maybe maybe the live streaming world is something that Lobbing Scorchers will infiltrate at some point. It's something I'm interested in. It probably, my aversion to technology, so it might take like 4 to 8 months for me to get the wherewithal to do anything like that, but it's definitely something to think about now that we are on the platform. We are cooking and building. We are. Anyway, let's get into this game, Noah, because this was honestly a crazy game. The Seattle Sounders, they won 3-2 over the Philadelphia Union at Subaru Park in that makeup game. We all have fond memories of that game that got rained out. I personally will always have fond memories of the guys with the mops that came onto the field and tried to clear it off while it was still pissing rain. And, I appreciated the effort of the guys of the mops, but I think it was ultimately the only call to make this game up a couple weeks later, as they did. And it made sense when they did it, with Seattle already out on the East Coast, having played DC United on Saturday. They picked this one up in the 6th minute with a free kick, and it popped off immediately. And, coming off that DC United game where Seattle actually played pretty well on offense with 10 men, and I thought really controlled the game for much of that second half, they were able to carry that over into this first half where they scored 3 goals. But before we get into the full game recap, there was a couple of news items that I forgot to mention right there. This news dropped before the game. Stefan Fry's red card from the DC United game actually got rescinded by the independent panel that makes those decisions. So he no longer has to pay that fine or
he also is no longer suspended for a subsequent game, and so I think he's eligible for the Galaxy game, and
he was eligible for this
game. Andy T started in goal in this game, but I mean, I guess let's just talk about that news itself real quick. I'll be honest, I was pretty surprised, and I don't really get it. Like, I thought that was pretty clear dogso, and like honestly, it never even, and like an appeal or that getting overturned never even really entered my mind. Like, I thought that was just pretty done and dusted. So when I saw that news hit today on the MLS editorial desk, my eyebrows were raised a little bit. I mean, I can give you my take on it as far as what the rationale would be. And the first thing I'll say is, like, when a red card gets rescinded like this panel, it has to be a unanimous vote, as I understand it. And they're completely independent of each other. They don't talk about it with one another. It's not like a debate panel where they break down the play together and are like, well, what do you think? And ask opinion. Like, they all look at it and view it independently, and they all unanimously voted to rescind this red card. So I was thinking of it like, what could they have seen on this play that got it unanimously overturned? And I mean, I think really the rationale must be that when there is a ball over the top like that into the box and kind of free space like that, and the goalkeeper is closing down the ball and the goalkeeper technically does have the same right to that space that the attacker does. And if you grant that Stefan Frei, when he was making his downward movement, was going for the ball where it's like where both players have the same right to make a play on it, and he was not trying to take down Jared Stroud but make a play on the ball, then it's not dogso. So I guess that must be what the independent panel determined. I don't really know if I agree, just because, I don't know. I don't know if this matters as to the letter of the law, but I feel like when he comes off his line there and takes down Jared Stroud, when Jared Stroud pretty clearly, it seemed pretty clear to me that he had him beat. And if Frei doesn't take him down, he's rounding him and scoring. And the only reason that he didn't round him and score was because Frei fouled him and took him down.
Yeah, I
was surprised to see it.
Yeah, no, clearly they saw. I mean, we talked about it, and my whole point of the whole thing was like, it doesn't really matter if you got a red card or not. Like, it was a dumb decision regardless, because if he doesn't get the red card there, that's still probably a penalty. And I think that's probably what the board considered was like. But
the thing is, there's no way it could be a penalty and not dogso.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, so, I think, they must be saying that Frei was trying to make a play on the ball, therefore it's not even a foul, and that it wouldn't have been a penalty, and that the red card was bogus. And this is kind of the other point I was going to make on the heels of that, which is it just makes that DCU game 100 times more frustrating.
Yeah.
Because if you grant that he shouldn't have been sent off there, and that also, if what I'm saying is correct, and that it also shouldn't have been a foul and a penalty, then I think the odds that Seattle take a result in that game are quite high, given how the game was going up until that point. And they might even win that game. I mean, if you look at how they played in the first half in this Philly game, they could be coming off a 2-game swing on the East Coast where they won both games, where I won't lie, going into this 2-game swing on the East Coast, I didn't expect them to win either of them. So it's definitely frustrating. But one funny thing about it is that he still got fined for failure to leave the field in a timely manner.
Yeah, I saw that.
Even though that they took the red card off. And I've always thought that this is funny that they do this. I look at the disciplinary committee report every week. It's one of the posts that I prep and edit for the website. And it's happened a lot of times now where we have one post that's red card for so-and-so rescinded by independent review panel. And then we have the disciplinary committee post that's fined for failure to leave the field in a timely manner after his red card offense, which in another post we've also admitted should not have been a red card offense. I don't really get that.
That's dogso. That's dogso.
You're admitting that the offense in question he shouldn't have had to leave the field in any sort of manner at all, let alone a timely one.
Yeah.
You admitted that when you rescinded the red card, so how's he still going to get fined for that?
They gotta,
I don't know.
Don Garber, get your bread up.
Stop being broke. That's more of just a funny little thing than anything that I'm that pressed about. But like, yeah, he got the red card rescinded, still got suspended or fined for failure to leave the field in a timely manner. But he is not suspended for the LA Galaxy game on Sunday. And then kind of in that same vein, there was also the news that Alex Roldan got an extra game suspension for his red card against the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Which I think we agree is deserved.
Well, yeah, so he's going to be suspended for the Galaxy game, and 100% deserved. Honestly, if you gave him another game on top of that, I wouldn't even argue with it.
Yeah.
That was just a ridiculously bad challenge out of emotion and frustration, and he just like kicked the shit out of the guy in the back of the leg while he was while he was running, which I mean that's
you can't do that, Ari. You can't.
That is very much against the rules, and I mean it's a dirty play. So the fact that he got tagged with an extra game on top of that, not a surprise, nor is it unfair by our estimation. But see, that was funny because he was one of the players who was on the field for the original rained out Philly game. So he's now suspended for an extra game on top of the suspension that he. I mean, wait, has he served one he
served at DC United,
right? So
one.
Yeah, exactly.
So he has to do another one.
So he has to do another. But in the meantime, he got to play this makeup game against Philly. So it's the Sounder at Heart guys have been sending some funny tweets about this, but this whole thing is like a warp in the space-time continuum.
Back to the future.
Yeah, we're playing like time travel ball with all these like red cards and retroactive. Blah, blah, blah.
Another funny thing that the MLS Apple TV commentators were pretty bad tonight, but one good bit that they did do was talking about how this might be the first game where there were new rules from the start of the game to now, because when the game was originally started, they didn't have these new rules about injuries where you have to come off for 3 minutes and then leaving the field of play. There were like those 3 or 4 changes that the league made. Yeah. So when they started this game, those rules were not in effect. And then when they continued the game, they were in effect. They also had a totally new officiating crew.
I feel like since this game took place back in time, then that those rules shouldn't have. Is that what they were saying?
No, I think they were just like, this is odd.
Apply now? Yeah, that's. Oh my god! Like
you're allowed to shithouse one more match.
It's all like, in what's been kind of just like a crazy season, this whole thing with the makeup game and all the red cards.
A game that shouldn't have been started, by the way. Thank you to the scab refs for that one.
Yeah, I mean, that I have fond memories of the rained out game. I don't regret it. I thought it was a great time. And, I'm always going to have that picture of the guys with the mops out on the field, just mopping it up, only to see it just keep raining.
If we ever get a studio someday,
the whole time, yeah,
we'll put that up, framed print.
Anyway, let's get into this game now. Let's finally get into this game. The Seattle Sounders scored 3 goals in the first half. So let's just talk about these goals, do the goal breakdowns. That's always fun. We haven't gotten to do enough of it this season. I guess, they've scored 13 goals now. 5 of those were in one game against Montreal, though. And this first half was... it was as good as they've looked all season, both in terms, I think, of just the eye test, the XG, and the finishing product. The first goal, you have Raul Ruidiaz with a long-range golazo from 50-some yards out. It was terrible defending, which I saw you were pointing that out, Noah.
Correct.
And I do think it is fair to point out that it's not like it was some great attacking phase of play that generated that opportunity. It was Raul taking advantage of a severe defensive lapse by the Philadelphia Union. Yeah,
his controller disconnected.
But then also like the goalkeeper, like what was he doing? Like
he was so far off his line.
He was so far off his line. So like that is totally fair to point out. But what I will say, just in counter to that, is it is great awareness by Raul to recognize that the goalkeeper's off his line and line up the shot. And it's also, he makes it look easy, but it's not easy to hit that shot from that distance, even on an open net with the goalkeeper that far off his line. There's a reason that goals like that are so rare, and that most times you see guys line them up like that when they think they've caught the goalkeeper off. They don't convert them. And we've seen Raul do this twice in his career now. He famously scored the one at Austin FC in the game where they played like 7 teenagers, and then he subbed on and scored. That that's one of the best goals in Sounders history, in my opinion. This one wasn't quite as sick as that, but it was a similar idea. And I think you got to give Raul credit both for the awareness and the finish, even with the goalkeeper that far off his line. And that's it's, to me, it's just another example of why, like, as long as he's on this team as a DP, like you ride him as far as he's going to take you, because he hasn't been getting those high percentage looks enough this year, but like we see in the Montreal game and now with this goal, like he's still got that in him sometimes to find those goals just kind of out of nowhere when you don't even think that it's going to happen. And he did it again in this game. And my eyes about popped out of my head when I saw that goal. No, I was not expecting that.
Same. No, I was.
All. And like, even when the shot left his foot, it looked good right away, but I was confused. I was like, why is there no one? And then it became abundantly clear when it got over the goalkeeper's head, like, oh, that's going in. That's the opener. Like, so sick goal. Sick goal.
I was super stoked to see him get that. I mean, like, yeah, you're right. Like, awareness of that opportunity it's hard. It's hard to understand that. And to just have the wherewithal to press that, especially, is really great. I know in the post-game presser, Roldan said that he screamed shoot immediately when Raul got the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
Can we assess an assist?
He should get an assist for that.
Because we're third assist lovers.
I mean, I'm
here.
sure everyone on the field, as soon as Philly turned the ball over, probably looked up and saw. I don't know. The Philly Union, they've been one of the better teams in the league for the last few years. I think they're down bad right now. They lost their last home game to Real Salt Lake. We talked about it on the last show, how they've been one of the best home teams in the league. But like, for them to get bammed on like they did in that game, and then get bammed on like they did 3 times in the first half at home again in this game, I mean, I still think the Philly Union are a good team, but damn, that was criminal defending.
Yeah, like, it was awful.
It really was. But Seattle kept taking it to them in the aftermath of that first goal, and they got their second goal not too long after from an unlikely source in the form of Obed Vargas, who lined up a golazo for his very first MLS goal. Congrats to Obed. Great shot on that play. Perfect placement. Goalkeeper didn't really have a chance. It was really, when we're going to talk about this more, but it was an incredible all-around performance in the first half by Obed. Really all game, but especially in the first half. I mean, I tweeted it, but he looked like the best player alive, Noah. Like, he was
cooking with gas.
He was cooking with gas more than any Sounders player has cooked with gas all season. He was everywhere. And what struck me most about it was just like the fire and the effort that he was playing with. And really, I would credit the whole team for that in the first half. It felt like every second ball, Seattle was outrunning them to it.
The counter press was crazy.
Their pressing was really good. They were bodying them off the ball. They were pouncing on giveaways, and they were churning in transition. And then Obed in particular, it seemed like every time he made a challenge, he won the ball back. His passing was incredible tonight.
He was I think one of the biggest things too is that he would get tackled, go down, and continue to still retain the ball. Like, he did this twice when he was in the box, including that assist. Well, not the assist, but the penalty that he won. He got shoved down like twice, and he still was on the ball. Like, he was ruthless.
And he did that sequence that you're talking about on the penalty, which we'll get to in a sec. Like, he did that like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and you couldn't get the ball off him, and like this, I'm totally willing to call this a breakout game, because the thing is, I would say my kind of critique of not just Obed, but like a lot of the academy kids that have come up, and I'm sure I've said this before, but it's like, they do a great job of holding their own, but they haven't really been impacting games as tangibly as I would like to see. For like, you saw Philly, they're famous for churning out their homegrowns. Their homegrowns impact the game. Like, you saw it with Jack McGlynn. Like, they were down 3-0 and he scored like a goal that got them back in the game. And like, they're like, so their homegrowns like do stuff like that with regularity. And Obed and Atencio, RBW when he's gotten his minutes, although he hasn't played as much and has been injured this year. But you haven't really seen them tangibly impact the game, get on the stat sheet, make those big time plays as much as you would like to see for guys that you're starting to give all these MLS minutes to. Obed did that in this game, and it was not just the goal. The goal was a just reward for how well he played all game, and especially in the first half. And that's great to see, and it could have big future implications. Like if he becomes a player that can give you something on the stat sheet, even like semi-consistently, and is playing with that passion and that energy and that fire, and doing all that hard work on both sides of the ball, that could help this team a lot. And it really, like, I don't think they're able to pull the result that they did tonight without Obed doing that. And for that to come from, it kind of felt like a milestone moment to me, man, where like he really like arrived in this game, in this moment. And I'm now pretty excited to see where that goes and what he can do going forward here, because I mean that goal was sick. That was a really nice shot, and he cooked really all game. I know the second half didn't go very well, but I thought he kept playing well.
I think he was the best player in all three phases of the field tonight. Like I'm not even joking. On either team, like his willingness to go back and be on the final defensive line, making clearances to bail out the defense, which was reeling, honestly, in the beginning of that second half. And his transitional play was incredible. And then just being there and being a tough body to defend in the attack, which freed up players like Raul and Jordan to cook, which is exactly what we've been talking about. And I want to say, people were shitting on Obed a couple weeks back, and I tweeted, I said, guys, I don't want to hear the Obed slander, because he's talented and clearly he's starting and playing because he has something to give. I think he showed it tonight.
I'll fess up. You know, I wouldn't say I was ever abjectly slandering him, but like I've been a little down on his stock this year. I'm not.
You've been Atencio over Obed.
I've been Atencio over Obed, and I've been critical just of the fact that I feel like there's been more that Obed could give based on his talent level that he hadn't really been hitting.
Which you were right about.
Yeah, which I think I was right about. But like, you know, I'm always happy to get proven wrong on a take like that, and he did that in this game, man. Like I really like. Yeah. I can't say enough about that performance, man. He looked like the best. He looked like the best godforsaken soccer player I've ever seen, man. Like I don't want to go like over the top with it, but he was flat out dominant. And like, so we'll talk about this next goal created by Obed. Like he won that penalty, like you said, in a sequence where, the guy knocked the ball off him at first, but he didn't give up on the play. He got up, won it back, and then he was about to make a run in on goal, likely create a dangerous opportunity. And the Philadelphia defender, Mbaizo, I believe, took him down. And stone cold PK, and Seattle gets their third goal of the first half on a Raul Panenka, another one, which so he's had like 4 PKs this year, I think, and 3 of them he's Panenka'd. And I feel like it's actually it's kind of brilliant, because by doing it so often and converting every time, he's kind of he's creating so much uncertainty every time he steps to the spot now. They're like, is he really going to do it again? There's no way. I'm going to dive this time. There's no way. And then he does it again, and he converts it. So now, like, it's I legitimately think there's like a strategy to this. Like, now goalkeepers are going to be even less sure of what he's going to do from the spot, just because he keeps spamming these Panenkas. And it's worked every time. I'm scared for the time that it doesn't work, because a Panenka that doesn't work is one of the most brutal highlights known to man. But as long as they keep going in and he keeps these goalkeepers off balance, I mean, Seattle's been winning a lot of penalties this year. So he's going to have to keep converting these, and just the bit, Noah, of him doing a Panenka like most times he gets up there it's pretty funny to watch because you just know the goalkeeper is like, there's no way.
Yeah, he's not going to do it again.
He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. I'm going to dive. He's not going to do it. And so they were showing the chart of where Raul has hit all his penalties, and there was like the Panenkas, which are like right down the middle, and then there's the one to the left side where he went for one of them, and the goalkeeper dives. He thought he was going to go to the opposite side of that, and he just Panenkas him again. So that was a good little finish, but that play was all about Obed. And at that point, the Seattle Sounders were flying. Like I thought. But so the one thing I will say is we totally forgot to mention this. It is entirely possible that this Obed breakout that we have been gushing over wouldn't have even got to happen, because I will be honest, he got pretty lucky to not get sent off right before he scored his goal. They mentioned it on the broadcast quite a bit because they caught it, and he got called for a foul for it. But he was jostling with the guy, and he put his arm up and he made contact with his face, which in a different era of MLS, they used to have this like ironclad policy that if you do that, that's an auto red. I don't know if that ever got officially changed as how they told the refs to look at the rule, or if they just stopped enforcing it. But I remember being really frustrated. This was way back in 2014, 15. And I think Ozzy Alonso got a red card this way where his arm came up, and they were saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter even if it's accidental.
Right.
Like if your arm goes high or your hand goes high and you hit someone in the face, that's an auto red.
Yeah.
And guys were just getting,
they would dive for it.
It was a huge problem because guys were getting these kind of ticky-tack red cards where they were to accidentally barely tap someone in the face and they would get sent off. And then there was also invariably times where it would be clearly accidental to where the ref would be like, all right, well, I'm just not going to give that red this time. He didn't mean to hit him in the face. And it was no, you have
rule
to. Is, and I remember getting so frustrated because I think Ozzy got one for that. And then the next week, someone on another team did the exact same thing to Seattle, and the ref didn't call it a red. And I was sitting there and I was like, I mean, you guys said if that's an auto red, by that standard, then that guy should be sent off right there. So, but either way, what Obed did, if they had given him a red for that, I would have been annoyed because it didn't seem like excessive or violent conduct, but I might have had to be just don't go to his face like that, man, and you don't even have to worry about that. I thought he was playing with fire with that, and I don't think that's a red card or worthy offense personally, but that doesn't matter, if you give them, I say this all the time, like I did with the Jackson Reagan red card against the Caps, but if you give them that window with those offenses, and then you get red carded for it, it's kind of your own fault. You got to not play with fire like that. And I thought he got lucky.
Yeah,
I thought he got lucky.
I don't know. I saw the play a couple of times. I don't think well, for one thing, I'll say this. People love to hate on pro referees, but a lot of the work that they've done over the last few seasons is to kind of look at things like that, rules like that, where they were giving out all that ticky-tack bullshit, and kind of tweak up the rules to be more all right, let's let this game go on and not be super involved. Does it work all the time? No. But I feel like that was a great rule that they kind of phased out or just have stopped enforcing. I don't think it was really that bad, but maybe I'm just used to this because when I played, if you're boxing someone out, I know it looked bad on the broadcast, but
and the guy made a meal of it, but that's you're giving them that opportunity to go get you sent off right there. So I don't know. It just especially with how this team's luck has gone with respect to these things in recent weeks. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, they're going to send him. It's happened again. And that's why I called it what would have been on Twitter. I called it what would have been the most infuriating red card in club history. And a friend of the pod, Mark Kastner from Sounder at Heart, he replied and said that wouldn't have even been the most infuriating red card in the last 2 weeks or something,
but it's the Obed pendulum.
Point taken. But I think the reason why it would have infuriated me so much is in the context of it piling on with the other infuriating red cards that we've seen in the last couple weeks, one of which was rescinded. But like, and especially coming off of a game where you go ahead 1-0 on the East Coast on the road, and then you completely chalk the vibes and chalk the game with a red card with so much time left in the game. If they had done that again, Noah, I would have lost my mind. And that's sort of why I was just like, oh, but don't do that. Don't do that. Because if he had got sent off right there, we would have missed one of the best breakout young player performances I've seen from a Seattle Sounder, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess learning moment there. And then I'm just going to say it, man, like just don't go to the face like that. Like everyone on the Seattle Sounders, like that exact type of thing. Like, I don't think it's a red card worthy offense, man, but like there's realities where that gets called. I'm telling you, man, I've seen that get called. I've seen you get called.
No, do it. I'm in disagreement.
You
do it.
I
want to see that
fight. All right.
I want to see that fight.
I mean, it's really fortunate for Seattle and for this podcast that it didn't, because he was truly a delight to watch the rest of the game and got a really good goal. And
9.1
won the PK that got the third goal. And that PK that he won, really, that was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have your little foot mob
I was just going to
rating?
say, 9.1 foot mob rating.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock I put in foot mob ratings, but that's accurate to me.
Messi had basically the same last week when he scored twice and assisted or whatever, you know. Yeah. So I'm just saying, you know.
So what you're saying is Obed is as good as Messi.
Correct. And that is exactly what I'm saying.
That was also the ultimate take that I was going to get to. So
Okay. I mean, we'll simmer it. We're simmering
the
that.
The way that I wasn't actually going to say this on the pod, but now that you bring that up, I'll just say it. What I was going to say is if you put like Messi in place of Obed but with the exact same performance, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's just like a normal GOAT game, you know, that's just Messi right there, like that's how good he played, you know. I'm being facetious, obviously. But no one blow up my mentions.
I actually genuinely kind of believe that in a sense though, because it was an archetype of Messi in a way. Hear me out. Hear me out. You guys can hit my mentions like the goals in the back of the net that Obed hit, but the way that he was bodied off the ball, stayed over the ball, was playing in all phases of the game. I'm not saying he's Messi. I'm not saying he's ever going to be Messi, but I'm saying it was a Messi-esque game in the way that he was so dynamic everywhere and just like owned the field and owned the ball when he was on it. He was
incredible. He's better than Messi, and you can write down that quote from this podcast.
I think that's the title.
Yeah. Obed Vargas, better than Lionel Messi. I do have another bone to pick from this game, which is that, okay, so kind of honestly on the exact same line of discussion as we were just having about Obed's shot to the face that wasn't a red card, Julian Carranza put his studs in the back of Christian Roldan's calf in the exact same way that Jackson Reagan did and got a red card for doing that to Scottish Messi a couple weeks ago when Seattle played the Vancouver Whitecaps. Carranza did the exact same thing to Christian and got a yellow. Okay, and so I defended the call unpopularly, I might add, when Jackson Reagan got that red under kind of just this. This is just sort of how I look at it. Like when you give refs those opportunities on those borderline calls, you like can't really be that aggrieved when the outcome goes against you, even if you don't think it's really that red card worthy of play. Like what I was saying when Jackson Reagan did it was anytime you go studs to calf, you open yourself up to that call, even if it's an inadvertent contact, even if it's not necessarily a violent play, even if you think that it should be more of a yellow card challenge, which is how I saw the Jackson Reagan one. It's just not a smart challenge, and if you do it by accident, you got to accept that you are at the mercy of a 50-50 call from the referee in that situation. But just to see Carranza do the exact same thing and get a yellow and not a red, and then also I can't remember which one, but another Philly player did the same thing later in the game. It happened twice, and it might have even happened like a third time. I know it happened twice for a fact. Like, it's ridiculous that Seattle has to play an entire game down a man in that situation on that call, and then there's no difference. Like, you can look at the replays, you can look at the screenshots. Carranza puts studs in calf. So, and I'm sure that's a big thing that the VAR was looking at in the on the Jackson Reagan challenge was like, okay, we have studs to calf here. That's a clear cut thing that we're looking at is the point of contact. There was no difference in the point of contact on that play that Carranza made on Roldan. So he should have been sent off. And it doesn't really matter. Like, you know, I think maybe subconsciously for a referee in that situation, they're thinking like, it's tough for me to send off a guy on a team that's like already down 3-0. It doesn't matter. Like if a red card worthy offense, if that's how we're calling it based on the precedent that was set on the Jackson Reagan call, you know, that should have been a red card.
I mean, I don't disagree in the sense that I would love to see that evenly called, but I don't really want to see it be a red either way. Like, I think that there's a very clear difference between endangering a player and endangering the safety of a player or denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. Frankly, I would just like to see less red cards all around. But I mean, yeah, like, should it have been called a red card if the Jackson Reagan one was upheld as a red card? Sure, but like I'm not going to sit here and complain about it personally.
Well, I am, because that's really annoying to me when, you know, the team that I'm invested in and covered has to play a game down a man and then gets the exact same thing done to them. And then I'm just calling consistently. That's all. Like I said, I defended the call on the Jackson Reagan play. Like I could totally see how that's a red card. But I was, you know, I would say I was more annoyed than like maybe as angry as I sounded when recapping it. But like it's, and then also, you know, if it happens one time, okay, like whatever, but it happened like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. So I think there should be a little bit of,
if we're going like black and white, studs to calf is automatically looked at as a red card offense. That challenge should have been looked at. And also like, just to like push back on one point you made, like that, like it is the reason that it's looked at as a red card offense is because that it arguably is like really endangering the safety of the opposing player, and I'm sure that's part of the rationale for that they used for calling it a red on Reagan. So anyway,
I mean, I think
that pissed me off.
Yeah, I think Reagan's was a little bit more violent personally.
No, see, this one was even more violent though. That's what I'm telling you. Reagan's was pretty inadvertent, and that's why a lot of people thought it was a bullshit red. This one, I'm pretty sure Carranza was like looking down and like knew what he was doing a little bit more. I don't think Reagan like actually meant to hit him there with his studs, and that was sort of the point of the controversy, is that it was kind of an inadvertent contact. I'll have to watch the replay again because now I'm interested in it and don't know if I'm recapping it correctly.
No, I believe you.
I seem to remember that seeing it and being like, Carranza's challenge is even worse than Reagan's because he's like looking down at it. So I don't know. Anyway,
I've gotten to the point in this season particularly where I just have no interest in giving a shit about what could have been for the other team. Like the officiating is never going to be even. Like I'm just like, probably should have had all 3 of them sent off.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but I still wanted to whine about it.
I'm here for it.
Let's get into the second half, because for as gushing as we were about the first half, the second half went off the rails a little bit. Seattle got really lucky to get out of this game with all 3 points. They really,
talk about a turnaround.
This rightfully could have been 3-3. They arguably could have even lost this game. And you know, I'm not going to be overly negative about this, Noah. You know, it was bad, but like, first of all, at this point, you just need wins. However you can get them. There's no style points. It really truly does not matter how they come right now. So they got the dub. It really was not pretty in the second half, but they did get it. And you know, the fact that they played really well and scored 3 goals in the first half meant that they could stand a half like that and still make it out of there and head home with all 3 of those points. So I'm basically, what I'm saying is I'm not going to question a dub or getting to record a dub pod at this point. Like, even though their game management in the second half left a fair amount to be desired. The Philadelphia Union scored 2 goals in like 2 minutes or something. It was like they were very close together to make this one 3-2. I'll tell you, so the Jack McGlynn Golazo, I can live with that a little more in the sense that first of all, it was probably unrealistic just inherently to expect to shut the Philadelphia Union out in this game. There was zero part of me going into this game that expected that Seattle would keep a clean sheet in this game just because of how good and how dynamic on offense Philly typically is at home. So, the fact that they got on the score sheet at all wasn't shocking to me, and also they had scored 3 times in the first half, so it didn't feel like the worst thing of all time. Even though it was really early in the second half, I still felt pretty good being at 3-1. And then also Jack McGlynn has arguably the sweetest left foot in MLS. This dude is disgusting. There's a reason that like you've got European clubs, some of which are reportedly very big European clubs, looking at this guy. The Philly Union, I mean, if you don't watch or follow them a lot, they are known for churning kids out like this, and he is one of the best out of all of them. I mean, Jack McGlynn is a big one, but you got Brendan and Paxton Aronson that also came out of that academy. You got Quinn Sullivan, who featured in this game and came out of that academy. You've got multiple guys that came out of there, like Brandon Craig, who is a really highly touted prospect, who I think he got loaned to Austin FC, but like he was a really good prospect, and they didn't even have a spot for him because they have so many of these guys. Nathaniel Harriel is their starting right back, and he's also an academy product. And then we talked about him on a previous show a couple weeks ago, but they have the best one out of all of them in Quinn's younger brother, Kevon Sullivan, who's 14, who's coming up, who literally he's going to Manchester City when he's 18. Yeah. So like this academy is savage, and like
and Pulisic played for the Union
he's from
Academy.
That whole he's from that whole scene. Like he went to Borussia Dortmund when he was really young, so they don't really get that much credit for him. But like the point is,
foundationally,
like, it's a very talent rich area that we're talking about, and kind of I guess my point is like when Jack McGlynn bams on you with that left foot, there ain't a whole lot you can do. Like he does that. Like
you're just like fair enough.
He really like that's how I felt, at least, just because. And I understand like people who don't watch Philly as much might not. They just see some 19-year-old bam on them and you get pissed off. But I've seen Jack McGlynn hit those a few times, and like it's mostly his free kicks. I haven't seen him score that many golazos like from the run of play like that. But like oh my god, like just the ball that he hits is so nice, and he hit that one perfectly. So I was not that pressed about that goal. I'm not that pressed about that goal. I thought that Philly was gonna get a goal or two in this game. The one that I can't live with is the next one, scored by Daniel Gazdag, which came. Was it like on the kickoff, like pretty much after the McGlynn goal? It was basically immediately.
Yeah.
And that shit has happened too many times this year, where they kind of just like melt down defensively for whatever period of time. And it was the Quakes game, right? They gave up they tied it, and they gave up the game winner just immediately. Like
off the restart, they're terrible.
That can't happen, man. Like those are moments in the game where you have to be able to slow it down, take some control of things. You can't, like, if you give up another chance after that, like that's still bad. But like to be conceding multiple times, like in that close proximity, it's criminal defending. It really is. And like the fact that it's happened in 2 different games this season and cost them a result in one game and nearly cost them a result in another is just like, I mean, I don't know what they got to do to cut that out, because I thought the performance defensively in the first half was good. And then after the Gazdag goal, I thought that for the most part, other than the would-be equalizer that Gazdag scored that got ruled offside, and there was a lot of shaky moments in the second half defensively, but I did think like they did well to manage it and get out. I mean,
they almost gave
win.
up a goal in the first. Nuhu made probably the worst pass I've ever seen in my life, straight to a Philly Union attacker, and only because I think it was saved. So like, Cleveland made a save, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. And that was...
Andy T, you mean?
Andy T. I'm sorry. Man, that's even worse. I don't even know my own players. But I like what... I don't think that the defense was really that good in the first half. I just think that the tempo was controlled so well in the midfield that like we really didn't have to worry about it.
I don't know. I saw it a little differently. I thought they pretty much cooked and dominated the whole first half. Besides maybe that, I forgot about that early chance off the new pass that you were talking about. But like, I didn't really think Philly was messing with them at all in the first half. And then even I early in the second half, I was feeling pretty good because Philly came out of the locker room looking a little desperate, right? And then you remember Rui Diaz almost made it for the Seattle. Philly was pushing forward super hard, and Seattle got a couple really good transition looks, good buildups. And Rui Diaz had a really nice look, and then Seattle got really close to scoring a couple times, like early in the second half. And I was like, okay, this actually might not go off the rails as I fear it might, because Philly is pushing so hard and looking so desperate. It's opening up chances for Seattle in transition, and they didn't convert either of the ones they had early in the second half, but they were good looks, and I was hopeful that would continue to manifest, but it didn't. They conceded twice, and then really after Gazdag scored the second goal, it wasn't all that long after that he scored again, and it got waved off for offside. He was off, but like not by that much. Like the Sounders got pretty lucky that they didn't concede on that play. And then also they conceded a couple other chances during the second half as well. And then Carranza had one like right towards the end that he had a header that got off the post where Seattle was arguably a little lucky that didn't go in. So all in all, this could have been a 3-3 or a 4-3, but it wasn't. It's a 3-2 dub, and the Sounders are now 2-5-3, I believe. Good for a cool 12th place in the Western Conference. But like if you look at the standings, they're at 9 points now. And that's literally only 3 off of the ninth place St. Louis for the last playoff spot in the West, with so much of the season left to go. If they get on a hot run of form, they can get up the table and back into the playoff mix. What exactly their ceiling is, should they get back there and make it into the playoffs? Like, is this team a title contender? TBD. But like, they're not out of it. They're not out of the race, is what I'm saying.
Everyone makes the playoffs. Sorry. Basically.
I mean, 5 teams don't, and based on how Seattle's record was looking this year, they were looking like they could be one of those 5 teams. So
I mean, yeah.
Like I'm not trying to say that it's some big accomplishment if they do make it to the playoffs. I'm just saying that, like, as it stands right now, like, especially with this win, like they are back on the fringes of the mix, which with how badly this season started, that's like the first step to getting back to closer, at least, to where you want to be. And it also, what was the stat you were telling me before we started about how it's like not their worst start ever now?
Oh yeah, officially this makes it not as bad as their 2018 start, I believe. This was a Jeremiah Oshan legendary moment in Sounders Twitter history. With this win, Sounders pulled ahead of their 10-game points total in 2018. So this season is no longer their worst start ever. No longer their worst start ever. You know, folks, not especially high bar, but they cleared it. And, you know, if you remember what went on to happen in that 2018 season, they actually ended up rattling off one of the hottest runs of form that an MLS team has ever had. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like 9 or 10 straight wins. So that kind of stuff can happen in MLS. I'm not necessarily predicting that it's going to happen this year based on the larger body of work that we've seen thus far. But I don't know. I feel after this 2-game road swing, I would say I feel marginally better about this team's prospect compared to what I did before the road trip started, just because, you know, I feel like the DC game they were playing well and they were ahead, and it got chalked by a red card that an independent review panel said shouldn't have happened. I think it's decently likely, or at least possible, that they take the dub in that game if that red card doesn't happen. And then, you know, for however poorly the second half of the Philly game went, it's still an East Coast road game against a really good team, which, like, you know, so when they beat CF Montreal 5-0, a big narrative was like, well,
that doesn't really count because CF Montreal is terrible, so they were just beating up on a bad team. Like, I don't want to hear that about the Philly Union. The Philly Union are like one of the best teams in the league over the last 4 or 5 years and hadn't lost at home in 2 years, like, or not in a year until Real Salt Lake beat them on Saturday. Yeah, and like we talked about it when we were previewing it, like just like the ridiculous stats and the goal differential and some of the talent. Like Gazdog's one of the best players in the league. Carranza's a really good, productive forward for them. They have this army of homegrowns that are all just menaces to society. Jack McGlynn's out there with his left foot just bamming set pieces and Golazzos on it. Like, it's a tough team, all right? So, like, this is I understand and honestly share the sentiment of the people that are pissed off about how this second half went and probably are going to use it to degrade this team's larger prospects and kind of undermine the win a little bit. I don't know. That's just I'm gonna choose to be a little more heartened with it, and I'm just happy that they got this dub. Like, they needed it. They scored 3 MLS goals. Obed Vargas broke out. Raul scored a banger. I think there's, even with that second half, to me, there's more to be happy with and encouraged by beating this Philly Union team in their own building than there is to be pissed off about by how bad the defense was in the second half. That's how I see it.
No, I agree with you on literally a majority of that. The only thing that I will say is that we've been talking a lot about personnel, and the Sounders in these last 2 games have been put in a very interesting position as to who they are forced to play, not necessarily who their first choices would be. And when I saw that DC lineup, everyone clowned me because they were like, you think that this ragtag team can actually perform well? I was like, no, I think that they can perform better than the starting 11 that Brian's been putting out majority of the weeks. And they did until that Fry red card. And arguably, they performed still even better in that second half than any team.
They kind of cooked with 10 men.
That's what I'm saying.
It's kind of funny to think about, yeah.
And then the same thing is happening here in this match where there's some more starters back in the fold, but like a majority of those starters were the issue. I mean, Nuhu had a new Who game, like to put it.
Oh my God, I forgot. I just want to now that you bring that up, this is one of the funniest New Who's moments I've ever seen. So there was like a through ball that the Union were trying to play in down the flank, and New Who was doing his shield thing off he was trying to shield the guy off the ball, and he did his step over routine. And the funniest part about it is like that's actually, for all the slander that Nuhu takes, he's probably the best in the league at that like shield move.
Yeah, he can do the booty bump
to win the goal. To win the goal kick.
Yeah,
and that's like it's been a valuable asset for him over the years, and part of what makes him good on the defensive side of the ball. But he put the step overs in there for some reason, but then he didn't realize that it was actually off a Seattle player, so it was a corner kick. And so he did the whole shield step over routine to win Philly a corner, and then his reaction to it was just like, "Oh my God, Nuhu, like you're killing me slowly, dude."
I think that's I think that's the perfect description of all of the issues with Nuhu, is that he just has no fucking clue what's going on the rest of the field. Like, it's not that he's a bad player.
It was such a good play. Yeah. Such a good play. Like the move he made to shield him off the ball, and the step over actually had like a point that time because it like kept the ball away from the guy who was trying to make a play on it around him and stuff. Like, oh my God, just.
Yeah, but I mean, for all of that, saying like he's just, why is he starting still, and why is he playing a full match? I honestly thought he played pretty well once Cody Baker came on, when they had 5 in the back and they slotted him more in and he stayed centrally, which I'm going to say, if you want to keep Nuhu on this team, which like valid, I totally respect that. Why don't we start trying him more as like a center back?
Yeah, no, that's been because he did get some run there at some point during his tenure with this team. I can't remember exactly when it was, and I remember the returns on that being pretty positive, and it does seem like that's a position that suits his skill set a little more.
Yeah, and just lastly, quickly, I'm also worried about why are we not substituting players when this is a midweek game? We have to play another weekend game and then another midweek game and then another weekend game. Like, we're getting a Paul Rothrock sub for a gassed Jordan Morris in the 90th minute. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like with how weird this game was put on the schedule with the rain delay and everything, and also just how it was going with them being ahead for most of the game and you're trying to see it out. Maybe it's a situation where you're just trying to like grind like hell through this one and kind of empty the tank a little bit. But like, I don't disagree at all that I would have liked to see some subs earlier. And just in general, sometimes like I feel like Schmetz makes the subs at like we were talking about this with the Moose subs.
Yeah.
It's like when you sub on Moose in the 88th, like what time does he have to really cook and put his own imprint on the game?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you sub a guy in more like in like the 70s or even the 60s, then you actually give them time to cook. And like those late subs, guys don't really like more like attacking players, I guess, is like then like I can see putting on Cody Baker super late like that.
Sure.
Especially when you're moving to 5 at the back, like you said. But
anyway. Yeah, no, like why are we doing that? The first sub came in the 60th minute when Rusnak came on for Chu, which like, okay, that's fine. But then the next sub didn't come till the 84th minute after they had scored 2 goals. In the 57th minute was when it was 2-3. They were reeling. And it's like, okay, now we're going to make a sub and move to 5 in the back in the 84th minute. Like, where is it? It takes way too long to make these decisions. And for that, I'm going to say, I'm still not up on this team. I'm still concerned. But they still look kind of sick.
They like honestly, these last 2 games they were kind of balling. Like I don't know, the haters might not, the pessimists might not want to hear it, but they were kind of balling.
They were,
except for the rescinded red card. Let's get to questions now, and then we can preview the Galaxy and get out of here.
Yeah, let's do it here. Thank you all for your questions. We always appreciate it. I'm honestly just spitballing here so I can pull up this tweet. But yeah, how long does it take to return to form from a broken back? Is it the amount of time between when Obed injured it until a couple weeks ago? Oh, like is Obed back? Basically,
I see. That's a good point. I had totally forgotten that he was dealing with that injury. He's dealt with quite a few injuries in the last couple years, which is unfortunate because, now that I think about it, that might. It's a good point. It might have kind of set his development back a little bit because he missed quite a bit of time when he could have been getting minutes that could have maybe turned him into the player that we saw tonight sooner. But man, I'm just so intrigued to see if this is something that he can build on and become like a really, truly like an impact player for this team, which he's shown like very brief glimpses of it. But tonight he like put it together for a full game. He was the best player on the field, dominated the first half, scored a goal, won a penalty. I mean, like we already said it all, but like you can't like he carried the squad and he's 18. So yeah, he's 18.
I think that's the big key is like he is 18 years old. He still has time to develop and grow, but
it was electrifying, man. Like it was like we've talked about him in terms of having this lofty upside for a long time. And really like I kind of I felt like we haven't seen it on the field. We saw it on the field in this game.
Yeah, no. And I totally love the way that you frame it in the sense of like, there's levels to it. You can hold your own, which they've been doing, but that minute that you start to create change on the field, you go from a player to, okay, this can be a star player, which I think is super cool. Will this shut up the Smetzer out crowd, Ari?
Probably not, just because of how hard they tried to bottle the result in the second half. But I think if they string a good run of form together, they climb up the table and they look more like the team that we all thought they could be going into the season, then I think Schmetz's job security will likely cease to be as much of a topic of conversation. But this is just one game in the midst of a pretty disastrous start to the season. So I doubt that. I frankly doubt this does all that much to temper that crowd. Although, like, I've never been that much in that crowd myself. So
yeah, we've been pretty vocal about that Schmetzer's not the problem. But I have to ask, did you see the sign that said Seattle invented losing in Philly? Well, apparently, and this is, I guess someone asked if this was the case, but it's been confirmed now. They took the sign down when they were losing by 3 at half.
Dude, do you realize how down bad you got to be to put that banner up and then have to take it down in the middle of the game? Like, that is, I mean, yeah, and we can confirm that they did in fact take it down, and that is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Like, that's why you probably shouldn't do that. Like, if your team balls out and you win, it looks sick, but if you get bammed on 3-0 in the first half, you look like a clown. So yeah, it got taken down.
Yeah, no, that's insane. I think that I thought it was funny, honestly, regardless. I thought that was a good bit because, like, when you try and co-opt our own bit of being like, yeah, we invented, like, if someone said we invented losing in Philly and they were a Sounders Twitter user, that post would bang.
Here's when leave it up when you're losing 3-0, like, stand on it and still leave
you
got to
stand on it.
That would be a good bit.
Yeah. No, I agree. Does Obed win MLS goal of the match day 4, or is it Raul from downtown? And I'll also add this: do we think Obed wins player of the week?
It's a good question, because they're both very worthy it's called goal of the match day now.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, MLSsoccer.com, Ari Lillianwall.
They're both very worthy goal of the match day candidates. And it's a good debate. I wonder where you stand on it. I kind of lean Raul, because, like, those like really deep distance goals like that, they're so rare. Like, the one Obed scored was a 6 shot, but you see those fairly regularly. Like, Jack McGlynn scored one of those. Pretty much the
Jack
exact
McGlynn's
same
was
goal.
better.
Jack McGlynn's was a little better. So, like, but, like, I think the Raul one, man, like, there's novelty to that goal. You really don't see those all that often. He's done it twice in his Sounders career now. So that would be my pick personally. But, like, I wouldn't argue with, honestly, either Obed or McGlynn getting some love there. I do think Obed for player of the match day is a great shout. I mean, there's probably going to be some very good individual performances that he's going to have to go up against to get that.
Messi.
Messi, but, like, they love giving it to, like, Mukhtar and Ricky Puig.
Yeah.
And of course, Messi, Suarez gets it. Like, a guy like Obed, I don't think they have the courage to give it to him.
Call them out,
but,
Ari.
like,
you have the power.
I will. I'm gonna speak my piece on it, but he really, like, those who know ball will vote for him, because that, like, there is no player in MLS, Messi included, that is gonna top that.
Yeah, no, I think I am Raul. No, I agree.
I love the bit of, like, praising him over Messi.
Yeah, no, he's like, I tweeted.
That's one of the coolest parts of having Messi in the league, is you can make jokes like this.
Yeah, you can make a 1-to-1. You can look at the last time Messi played Philly and be like, did Messi do this against Philly? I don't think so, So yeah, no, I'm Obed player of the match week, Raul goal of the match week, because that Raul one was nasty. And I love a long goal. That's, like, the sickest shit ever. So
oh yeah, like the moment you can see the goalkeeper's heart sink when the guy hits the shot over them and you realize it's going in. Nothing hits quite like that.
Yeah. The only one that ever hit better than that, like, with goalkeeper reaction, was the Obafemi Martin's goal, where he chipped it basically off the
famous
the end line, and it's the San Jose keeper just, like,
John Bush, I believe.
Bewildered. But
that's a good shout. I forgot about that one.
Well, thank you all for your questions. Not as many questions this week because you guys are cowards because we won. You didn't want to come and lob them.
Every time it's an L pod, I put out the crowdsource the questions, and it's like, you have 77 unread replies, and then after the dub pod, it's like, you have 8 unread replies.
Yeah.
Like our download numbers are going to be way down too because they won. But,
exactly.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, like we do always appreciate the discussion and interaction and the engagement in my mentions, and I think it is probably more due to it being a Tuesday night rain makeup game than the result. But yeah, appreciate you guys for the engagement as always. Let's talk about this LA Galaxy game and then call it a wrap for episode 31. That sound good, Noah?
Sounds amazing.
Okay, I mean, I don't really even have all that much to say about this game other than that. I mean, the LA Galaxy are coming off a pretty bad loss to Austin FC, who are suddenly looking like a pretty legitimate team after we clowned on them a fair amount early in the season. But so it's not like a horrifically bad loss for the Galaxy, but it was a pretty bad loss in that, I've been talking about this Galaxy team like one of the best teams in the league. They certainly have been my favorite team to watch this year. They besides maybe Inter Miami, they are electric on offense. Their front four of Ricky Puig, Gabriel Peck, Dejan Joveljic, and my favorite player in MLS, Joey Paintsil. That is as nasty a front four as you will find in this league. And they when you guys who haven't watched the Galaxy so far this year, you will see on Sunday, if they start cooking with gas, like when they start rolling, they start really rolling. And it is like a sight to behold. It's like a snowball running down a hill. You know what it's like is it's almost like watching Inter Miami when they're like crazy ballistic zones. This Galaxy team like can hit those type of gears, especially in transition. And they have a striker in Joveljic who we've been watching the Seattle Sounders strikers flub chances dating back to last year now. Joveljic probably isn't going to flub those.
No.
Like, he finishes those. So this is going to be a really hard game especially for a defense that in this Philly game, like if they play like that, like they did in the second half of Philly on defense, if they play like that against the Galaxy are going to put like 3 or 4 by him, no problem, and they could cook more than that. So Seattle needs to, they got to get to Long Acres and they got to tighten that up because this team is really not messing around in attack. That being said, the thing about the LA Galaxy is that their defense is pretty much like Seattle's in the second half against Philly at all times. That's just how they play defense.
Correct.
So you can score on them and take results on them because they don't really. That's sort of similar to my Inter Miami too. They just the defensive side of the ball, that's just not their thing. They don't pay that much mind to it. If you want a couple of goals against them, they're probably going to give it to you. They're at least going to give you the opportunities. So I think this is lining up to be a pretty fun game. Like, I don't think it's going to be a grinded out 0-0 type thing where the opposing team comes into Lumen and they try and bunker and troll for the 0-0. Ain't no reason for this Galaxy team to do that at all. Like, they have the personnel and they're in good enough form, their last game notwithstanding, that if I was Greg Vanney and I was coaching that team, I wouldn't bunker for anybody. I would be like, fuck you. Like, we're coming into your building and we're going to score 3 or 4 goals because we are just that good in attack. We have one of the best players, 2 of the best players really in the league in Ricky Puig and Joey Paintsil, who I haven't talked about Joey Paintsil enough because everyone who listens to this pod knows how much I love Joey Paintsil. Joey Paintsil is so good. Like, I love watching him play. I watch every Galaxy game not for Ricky Puig or Gabriel Peck or Dejan Joveljic. I watch them for Joey Paintsil.
Yeah, King Joe.
I like what have I been calling him? Leo Chu with end product. Like,
yes, correct.
It's amazing to watch this winger when he makes his runs down the right side, either create a dangerous opportunity for someone else or score himself. He's at 4 goals, 4 assists, but really, like, he's been pretty unlucky to not have his stat sheet production be even higher than that. Like, I've seen him hit the post a few times. I've seen him set up guys for sitters and they've missed him for, like, he could be up at like more like 6 goals, 8 assists right now based on how he's played. So definitely, if you like watching good footy, man, this Galaxy team in attack in general, but specifically Joey Paintsil. I love Joey Paintsil.
Yeah, no, I am very excited for this 3-3 draw at Lumen Field where the Galaxy just absolutely give up 3 goals in the second half after looking like literal Jesus Christ.
But Joveljic and Joey Paintsil combined for all 3 goals.
Yeah, exactly. I will be wearing a Joseph Paintsil jersey in the crowd, so if you see me, don't be offended.
This is the most... I know no Galaxy fans probably listen to this show, but like this is the most pro Joey Paintsil pod, even more than the Galaxy pods. Like, yeah, he's my favorite player to come into MLS in the last like couple years. Like, you know, I mean, you could put obviously the Messi thing is in its own category, but in terms of just like random DPs that I didn't really know much about, and then I watching him, I'm like, holy shit! Like, who is this guy? Like, Joey Paintsil is up there.
I'm always a sicko for just watching random MLS games, but like I have a routine. Like I always watch Inter Miami. I'll always watch, you know, if there's nothing on, I'll just pick a game. But like I appointment watch LA Galaxy simply for their attack, and like Joey Paintsil is so cool. And Joey, if you were listening right now, I will jersey swap with you, please.
Joey, if Joey Paintsil is listening to this, please like come as guest on Lobbing Scorchers.
We can definitely get him on. I feel like that's possible.
That'd be my dream interview.
Yeah, I think we can get him on.
Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say in preview for the Galaxy game. Looking forward to it. I would say seeing this team at least play some entertaining ball over these last 2 games, it's given me a little more juice for the season. It was a drag. It was getting like boring and kind of depressing for a minute there, but even though they bungled the DC game really badly, I feel like they're playing better ball right now. And this was a big dub that they got in Philly, and I'm hyped to watch this Galaxy game because like you were saying, like Galaxy have been appointment viewing like 100%. Like I watch all their games, so them playing Seattle, it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be there. But I think with that, we can call it a wrap for episode 31 of Lobbing Scorchers. Thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in. We appreciate it so much. Like, our listenership through the roof, so much better than we ever even thought it would be. Thank you so much to our paid subscribers. You guys are the best. I'm going to read off the names again. Daniel, Mike Standish, my guy, Ryan Shane, Eric Stanley, my nephew, CJ Miles Marinakis, Andy Hill, Ian Mitchell, Greg Hoker. You guys are the best. Like,
shout out Eric.
Really like I can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate that. And sub to our YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, write us a review on Apple.
We need some. We haven't heard any reviews in a while.
Our average is really good. It's like 4.9, but bring it up even more because it got dragged down by a pair of disgruntled and pissed off LAFC fans who were
St. Louis fans as well. I think actually too. When we put them on Fraud Watch, they were just upset about that one.
Hey, we turned out to be right about that. Sorry.
Did. Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this show. We'll catch you next time. Until then, we out.
Peace.